back to Tiny Artist TV, and welcome to the second video in my Drawing from History series for 2021. Today we're going to be focusing on a writer, and a writer I still have yet to get to reading anything from, but have really wanted to for years. We're going to be looking at Octavia Butler today. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the video. Despite doing typically lesser known African American historical figures and modern figures, I couldn't resist. Octavia Butler is a pretty renowned name in the sci-fi writing community and just in general. She's famous for integrating African American spirituality and social issues into her work and has won multiple awards over the span of her career. Octavia Butler was born in 1947 in Pasadena, California. Her father died when she was young and was subsequently raised by her mother and grandmother, the prior of whom worked as a maid to support her family when Miss Butler was growing up. This experience would later fuel one of Butler's most famous works. Growing up, her mother was adamant about Octavia receiving a proper education, something that she had been denied, and would often bring home books that had been discarded by her employers. And although Octavia was dyslexic, she still learned to not only enjoy, but to love reading, and at age 10, decided that she wanted to pursue becoming an author. She went on to earn an associate's degree from Pasadena City College in 1968. She followed up this education at the Open Door Workshop of the Screenwriters Guild of America West, which was founded to specifically cater towards African American and Latino populations of that area. And she later continued this education and self-study of the sci-fi writing genre at the Clarion Writers Workshop by the recommendation of her fellow sci-fi author Harlan Elliott, whom she'd met at the Open Door Workshop. While pursuing her career as an author, she'd held several part-time jobs, and in 1976 she published her first novel, The Pattern Master. This would later be touted as the first in what her publishers would call the Patternist series, which consists of 4 other books: Mind of My Mind, published in 1997, Survivor, published in 1978, Wild Seed, published in 1980, and Clay's Ark, published in 1984. And in that same year, 1984, she would win a Hugo Award for her short story Speech Sounds. In 1979, rewinding a little bit, Kindred was published and launched Butler further into the mainstream. Kindred was inspired by several real-life events in Butler's life. It was inspired by her time in college and her exposure to the Black nationalist movement, which was largely active from 1950 to 1970, and worked to emphasize the social injustices both historically and in present day of the Black community. She was also inspired by seeing her mother be discriminated against while working as a maid. She says, "I didn't like seeing her go through back doors. If my mother hadn't put up with all of those humiliations, I wouldn't have eaten very well or lived very comfortably. So I wanted to write a novel that would make others feel the history, the pain and the fear that Black people have had to live through in order to endure." And though Kindred wasn't the beginning of her career, it certainly wasn't the end. She went on to write Xenogenesis in 1987, just 3 years after the last novel in her Patternist series. Adulthood Rights 1 year later, Imago a year later in 1989, and The Parable of the Sower and The Parable of the Talents in 1993 and 1998 respectively. Interim, she published Bloodchild in 1995, and for it won both a Nebula Award and her second Hugo Award. Towards what would unfortunately be the end of her life, in 2000 she received the PEN, or the Poets, Essayist, and Novelist Award for Lifetime Achievement. Miss Octavia Butler died on February 24, 2006, at the age of 58, just outside of her home in Seattle, Washington. There is a conflict in the cause of death, whether it was the result of a fall or a stroke, but it's undeniable that her death felt sudden to many of us. Ms. Butler's writing career and legacy has left a greatly needed lasting impact on not only the sci-fi community, but the writing community for us Black women who couldn't keep their heads out of the clouds. And as an aspiring writer, I can't help but appreciate that impact. This is all I have for you today on Miss Octavia Butler. I have sources linked below down in the comments if you want to look more into her works, what they're about. Of course, there are plenty of places where you can buy her work. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you guys next time. Have a weird day.